Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the No Closure Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. It is a gorgeous day here in Austin, Texas, and it's absolutely beautiful. You know, it's kind of hard to believe it's going to be 80 degrees today. It's the 6th or 7th of December, 4th or 5th of December, whatever day it is here. And, you know, this time of year, a lot of us are working towards the end of the year and also working towards sprouting new things in the first year. So I was excited and am excited to have two amazing people from Leafy Legal Solutions joining us here today to talk about some of your year-end things you got to put in place and some of the things you can be putting into the beginning of the next year. So we're honored to have Brian Price and Jennifer Gligoric join us from Leafy Legal Solutions this morning. What's going on, guys? How's your day going?
Great.
Going
Yeah,
great.
we're actually Leafy Legal Services.
My apology.
No worries,
You're right,
no
Jack
worries.
Carson.
It's easy to mix the two, but just wanted to put it out there.
No. Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that. Ding, ding. There we go. Services.
There we go. That's right.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing over there. Who wants to start with that? Jennifer, Brian?
Yeah, sure. We basically provide asset protection for real estate investors. We make sure that we can hide your assets for you legally. You know, this is not for any shady individuals out there, but we make sure that we layer protection for you so that it's very difficult. If someone wants to sue you, you get into having a vexatious litigant, or let's say you do a buy and hold and you're right next to a neighbor and you're so excited you're so excited for your renters and they turn out to be crazy and stuff, which happens sometimes. Being able to sue you is just an endeavor that an attorney's going to say it's just not worth it. So that's what we do. We try to structure things along with estate plans and other retirement options that are specifically tailored for real estate investors or for entrepreneurs to provide you the maximum protection. And we also set up structures that help you in your business grow it and be more profitable. When you do things the right way, these boring little things that you set up in the beginning, it's amazing how they end up helping you later on think about things differently and grow a lot more exponentially than you would have if you just wing it. So that's what we do.
Brian, you want to add anything
Absolutely.
to that?
Oh, and we also do estate planning as well. It's another things that we help people to make sure that, you know, when things happen, you know, life is weird. You never know what to expect. So having an estate plan in place, you know, a lot of people think a will is enough, but depending upon what your assets are, sometimes usually you need something a little more comprehensive. And so that's another service that we offer to help people, especially as we're coming to the end of the year as well. This is the best time to get that all kind of settled as we kind of go into the new year.
You give the gift of planning to your loved ones, right?
Exactly.
Well, it's a little bit more than that. You think of it, most people think an estate plan is just a will, but they don't think about the eventuality of what happens if someone gets hurt. Like, so let's say you're an investor and your partner is your spouse, but they become hurt. Do you have your directives in place? Do you have a living trust? You know, do you have things set up with an agent trust, and that, you know, the beneficiary of that trust is a living trust? You know, when you have things set up properly, you don't have to worry. You already have a game plan. And so and having that game plan in place is pretty important. Like, I've talked to people and they're like, no, I don't want anything to happen to me, so I don't want to do it. And I'm like, dude, you know, let me just tell you that the people who do it are the people that it never happens to. It's the people who are like, looking at their text, they fall down the 8-foot hole. And then it's like, you know, they're in traction and nobody's running their stuff because they have nothing in place, you know. So you just need to get that. It's an important thing to do. It's not as expensive as you think it is, and it gets everything tied up, and it can help you, and it can help you with your taxes and things later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea is to know how you're exposed. I think a lot of people want to ignore it. It's easiest to ignore. It's like a lot of times when we're not sure about something or afraid of something, the first thing we do is hide from it, which is normally the worst thing to do, especially if something happens. And so you really want to just, get some advice, get some understanding, at least know where you are exposed. or what you could be doing better, I think is definitely something, especially at the year end. There's a lot of stuff changing, a lot of stuff, new things are happening. So it's always good to be understanding where things going. And even if you do have some asset protection or estate planning, it's always good to be up on it. So if you have someone that you're speaking to on a regular basis, that's great. If you're not, then you should be speaking to someone probably every 6 months to a year. If you have some sort of asset protection. If you don't, then you need to talk to someone now.
Right.
Yeah. Because a lot of people think that you have to be just rich to think about these things, mm-hmm. right? But our attorney works with, a nonprofit for lower income people. And sometimes if the only asset you have is a house, you're going to want to think about that. You're going to want to have a plan for that, because I was just talking to him, and he's here in Houston. So, I'm in Galveston, he's in Houston, and there was a family that this house, and they did not have a lot of money. They're going to low income services where he's doing pro bono work. And, they had a great grandfather that had several hundred acres. It was a lot for them. That was like the only, I hate to use this term, pot they had to piss in was this acreage. And because no one had ever set up any estate planning or anything else for that, or had any plan on record, they lost it because of some piddly tax issue, and it ended up not being a lot of money. So when you want to think about generational wealth, and let's say all you have is the grandma's house and everybody else is busted, you're all renting, you have nothing else or whatever, but you have that, being able to come up with a plan for that and take care of that, that can be the difference between generations still in the same hamster wheel of a loop, and then some kid getting that chance to leverage that and make a difference. Mm-hmm. So this estate planning it's for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I found. I've told my story a bunch of times. I know I told it to Scott when you came on our show. I was homeless as a teenager. I was a pregnant homeless teenager. And I come from a great family. You'd think I had a silver spoon in my mouth. But at that point in time, everything crapped out. And I met lots and lots of people who ended up in the system that they didn't need to end up in the system. And the mindset of poverty puts you in there. They're just small little tweaks, things I'm learning about right now, of that the way poor people are taught about money and about savings is not the same way other people are taught. And it's just that difference of what a poor person would say, oh, that's a risk you can't take. And someone else would say, no, that's a risk you have to take. If you don't do that, you'll never get ahead. Mm-hmm. And it's just making those choices. So, we help educate people when they call us and to talk to them, because we get investors that have, they're in consortiums, they are doing multifamily, they've got buy and holds, they're doing flips on the side, people like that. And then we're doing big plans for them. And then we get the person who's just like, hey, I just got out of the military. I've got a little bit here. I don't know where to start, but I don't want it to all go in a lawsuit. Mm-hmm. What can you do for me? And then we'd set up a basic series LLC under an anonymous land trust, so at least they could feel that sort of protection, that they're not going to lose it. If they make a mistake, they don't have to lose everything, because that happens a lot. People get in the game and they go on to bigger pockets and they're learning everything they can, but still, we're all going to make mistakes. The thing is, don't let that mistake be something that completely wipes you out and you can never get back on your feet again. Right. Because one lawsuit where you end up shelling out, 10 to 50 grand on attorney's fees. And if you don't have that, that's it for you. But if you are not an attractive person to even sue and you get passed by, well, what a world of difference that makes. So, that's what we're trying to, that's what we do, is we try to educate people and show them that a little, a pound of, or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Because once you get sued, we can't come in at that point,
Sure.
You've got to go through that course.
Right. That makes sense. But you mentioned a couple of things there, and I want to come to Brian on this. You guys talked about using an anonymous LLC. I know my listeners are like, what? You said an anonymous LLC? How does that work?
Well, an anonymous
Anonymous
LLC.
trust. I'm sorry, anonymous trust.
Anonymous trust. Yeah, anonymous trust is essentially it's a way to, and a lot of times it can be put for multiple things, but most of the time it's for real estate, where you actually can put that LLC that owns an asset anonymously. So like a series LLC, for example, which is what we mostly have most of our clients do for structuring, is you have a parent LLC, which then owns multiple other LLCs that have anonymous trusts incorporated into a certain property that they own. And so we put that property in that LLC's name and under anonymous trust. And so what that does is, and we show people all the time, is like, hey, a customer comes to me, it's like, oh yeah, I own like X number of homes, but I own them in an LLC. Well, we can bring that up and we can show, well, yeah, we see them all right here and they're all exposed. Now, if you're sued, a lawyer is going to basically do the same thing and say, okay, well, let's pull the public record. What does this guy own? Oh, he owns this LLC that owns, these 10 properties. Whereas if you had anonymous trusts, it would see the properties would come in because you have to buy them under your name. But as you transferred over into an anonymous trust, it would show that those other corporations have these anonymous trusts of something that is in a public record.
Yeah, basically, it's complicated legal theory.
Yeah.
And so that's why you have to have someone to do it. You
Yeah.
can't go into LegalZoom and do something like this. They don't even offer
Legal
it.
Doom?
Legal,
Right?
yeah, right. I don't want to trash anybody here, but you don't want to do it yourself. So when you're thinking of it, you're operating under an LLC that you have. However, that LLC is going to be managed by an agent trust. A trust is a private document. It would be like someone trying to sue. I had a paralegal tell me once, it would be like trying to sue a savings account. Typically trusts have lots of people, lots of different things. It stops, and trusts aren't even filed. So it just has this name and then it stops. So your name's not on that. That's where you may be running it. You may be writing the checks. You may be like, I'm here, but legally that's not who's managing it. And then if you go a step further, so let's say we're not even talking about investors. You're just running a regular, let's say, drop ship e-commerce business or something like that. Then you would have an LLC that's managed by an agent trust, and then the beneficiary of that agent trust is a living trust that's underneath your estate plan. Well, they're only going to go to that one LLC if they are able to pull it up. And then it kind of stops there. You're not an attractive candidate to sue. That's what we're talking about in anonymity. Exactly. Now, if you're off chopping up bodies and keeping them in big mass graves, like some psychopath somewhere, then you'll have you'll have the might of the government that comes to you. But something like that is going to stop it. And that's not even a series LLC. A series LLC takes it even one step further than that to the ultimate ideal protection for real estate investors. Then you're doing things under a managing LLC, but then you have another anonymous land trust that is created. So you have a managing person that you're not on. Then underneath that, you have the series parent LLC. We call it a parent. And then underneath that, you have children LLCs that have children trusts, and then your properties are underneath that. And it doesn't even have to be properties. Let's say it's a whole car collection or an art collection that doesn't really change or something like that. That can go on to an LLC up to 16 LLCs under that. So it's a very powerful structure. And all you have to do on your end is your accounting has to be straight. Your accounting's got to be straight anyway. So we're not gonna, and if it's not, it should be. And then we show you how to do that, and then you just get with your CPA and they take care of it from there. But a structure like that, if you're driving down the road and you get into a fender bender, then you don't have to worry about the first thing that sharky attorney doing is pulling up all your information saying, okay, I'm gonna put a lien against all these properties, because it's all public record. If you don't have a structure like this, it's public record. All those things have to be filed. But if you buy them in your name, because you do have to buy it under your name because you're using your credit. We don't want you to think buying property under an LLC is a very expensive and odious, it's a difficult task to do.
Well,
know,
but actually, hang on a second. Let's fix that real fast.
for regular people, I think.
No.
You don't
I
think
want to
so?
make. I don't want to spread that lie. No offense. You can buy real estate without having to use your credit. I've bought hundreds of properties over the last 10 years without having to use any of my credit or anything like that. So there's a lot of different ways, especially if you look at the environment, what's going on out there of subject to investing or wraparound mortgages with owner financing and so, or buying the loan. You don't need credit to do a lot of that stuff. So I get where you're coming from, Jennifer, but I don't want to even start.
Well, I'm talking about for the regular buy and hold. There's a lot of stuff. It's not as easy to go get a loan under an LLC. It is for a regular person. It isn't as easy.
I agree, but we don't do a lot of our listeners out there. A lot of people aren't going to the bank for a loan on a property. Is what I'm trying to get at for the most part. So especially dealing with investors, they're doing so many things creatively, or using other people's money, or using their self-directed IRA funds to fund a purchase, or doing joint ventures and stuff like that. So I think, one of the things, I don't own anything. I haven't bought anything in my personal name in 19, 20 years for the most part. It's all been through entities and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I want to take us to in this next one. We've been talking about a series LLC, and I know not everybody is familiar with that. So I have one. I use it pretty extensively, but a lot of people don't know about the series LLC. Is this something that's just exclusive to Texas? How many other states are offering it? And let's dive into that and share a little bit of our
18 states.
I'm sorry,
18 states offer it. I believe Alabama was the last in 2005. Other states are pending. Puerto Rico is a territory, but it's another one that uses it. So there's 18 other states that have their own series LLC. However, we prefer Texas because Texas taxing is so attractive for investors, and the climate here to be able to not have a state tax and everything else that goes along with having your corporation set up here is just very attractive for businesses to begin with. So that's why we prefer the Texas LLC.
I get that, but share what a series LLC is. I know what it is. You guys know what it is, but how is that different from a regular LLC they went down to the Secretary of State and got?
Because a series is one entity, so one major holding entity called the parent LLC. Okay. Then underneath the parent, you would have children LLCs, which are completely different entities legally, but they're held underneath this parent. Then underneath those children have their own individual trusts, and then underneath those trusts, that's where you hold the property. Okay. And all that paperwork goes into the series LLC.
So
I can bring it up. Let me see. I can get
the thing I'm trying to get at here is I think it's not that complicated. A series LLC is a main parent LLC, and you can add multiple series to it, like Series A, Series B. Those would be considered the children LLCs, as you're referring to, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We just want to keep it simple for everybody here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's not overcomplicate. People like thinking kids. What? I gotta have kids? I don't want to have any
kids.
No,
you don't have to have kids.
I gotta have a trust for every one of these series, and it's just that it's
the paperwork that goes along with it.
And you can add series a series, or as you say, the children LLCs very simply. Correct.
Correct.
Yes. Well, we do it very simply, but when you're setting up a series LLC, there are arm's length clauses that are set up in there. The idea is onion layers. You want an arm's length from other entities, because what you don't want to have is how people used to structure it with multiple different LLCs. You have 10 different LLCs, because that's like a house of cards. Once you find one and you find your name, then they all can fold. So you need arm's length clause of separation between the two, and that is built in to a series LLC structure if done correctly.
Because it's labeled differently, it's a different series. Series A is independent of those assets that are in that.
Correct.
Independent of Series Z.
Right, and your accounting is going to be different on the lend. You're going to have the operating agreement for that, for any LLC, you have to have an operating agreement. Right. And in that operating agreement, you define certain things. So you want to make sure in that operating agreement, you have the language and the wording that talks about the arm's length separation between how this will operate. Because if for any reason that were to come into play, let's say Florida, I believe, has one case where they were not able to in the end, but they were almost able to break open a series, because Florida does not recognize the series LLC. And somebody used another state's, it was not Texas, to have a series LLC there. But because of the operating agreements that were in the child series, that were in the parent series, and because of how the accounting was done, it showed that there was separation between the entities. They weren't operating the same.
Now, the thing that I'm sure people are going to be asking as they're listening to this is like, oh my God, do I have to pay to file a new LLC every time I create one of these? What kind of cost structures or costs are we looking at for people to create a series LLC?
Well, for a series LLC, you can start out at around $5,000. That's if you have a property. And then it can go up from there. So let's say you're going to want 10 properties. Property transfers are difficult. You have to have someone to research the deeds. You have to go in, and every different county is going to be different. And then, as everybody knows who's done closings, there are some counties like Cook County, New York City, yeah, right. Orange County, California, man. They ask for so many ancillary documents, it can be expensive just to do a single property transfer. So property transfers are going to run you anywhere from $750 down to $250, depending on if it's just like a regular county. A good cost for that is around, I guess, $550, $525 for property transfers. So that's going to add from there. And then if you want an estate plan, that goes, that would be up from there as well, because you're going to want to roll it in. If you're going to have multiple properties like that and you're in this business and this is what you do, the last thing you want to do is to become incapacitated and not have a plan on what to do with your business. You're going to want someone to take care of that. And if, God forbid, anything happened to you, you're going to want to have a pour over will. You're going to, because you can't at the last minute, let's say your company is buying notes and you're buying properties and you're doing stuff, but that's not specifically named like in the will, then you're going to want that to be in the pour over will.
So an ideal client for an LLC, for a series LLC is who? Somebody who's got more than one property, somebody who's buying property on a regular basis or notes on a regular basis.
For a series, if you have a plan that I want to get a couple of properties, even if it's just one this year, you might as well start out with that, because just get your structure set up straight, understand how it is, get your accounting set up to work with that structure. And then after that, it's just calling up the person, like calling up us and saying, hey, I'm buying a new property over here. Take care of it. And then we take care of it for a nominal fee.
It keeps you protected from the beginning. We've actually had people that came to us after they've gone through lawsuits and lost everything, knowing that what went past, now they're starting over, and they're basically, I want to start out right. I don't want to make sure that I have everything in my ducks in a line and everything is great in the world. Is we want to make sure that he was set up right. And so it's like, yeah, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be buying 4 properties a year. I know what I'm going to do. So therefore I want to get my structure in place now. And so anybody that's looking to do that, it's definitely worthwhile to get it done ahead of time, because then the headaches of what you need to do and transferring things over, because you may, a lot of times you may go somewhere, done for you or do it yourself type of thing, where you're trying to get all your structuring there. And then you realize, you buy your first property thinking you had everything done. But then you go back and you talk to someone like us that says, well, it wasn't quite the way you needed to do. And so it's good to get the advice before you even start, even if you're thinking of it. So,
but it saves you a lot of money. I mean,
it saves a lot of money.
You can just pay for the structure, and then you're not hit with, well, I have 10 properties and then I need them all transferred over right now. Mm-hmm. That's expensive. And then it takes longer to do that. If you have one at a time, then, you can take care of that. Mm-hmm. So, you're going to want to do the thing that's most cost effective for you too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously cost effectiveness, it makes it, anybody having an LLC in or outside of California is going to pay their pint of blood of $800 filing fee.
Their franchise fee. Yeah.
Franchise fee every year. So no matter whether you're local or independent or whatever, even if you live there or outside of there, that's why I'm willing to imagine that California doesn't recognize series LLCs. Is that correct? Or
No, you need a Delaware statutory trust structure if you're going to be in California, Massachusetts, or Delaware. And another thing, doing business in California, the way they speak about that can be difficult. So you can be hit if you have a couple of properties. How they define doing business as is very encompassing. They want your money. You know, they want the money. So they have it written in a way that it can be more than just $800. You can be hit for multiple properties. You can be hit for late fees, fines, and penalties if you don't have that structure up. So California, we always recommend a DST and how to get that set and to do your accounting for that, so that you're not hit with the doing business as. And thankfully that is a legal structure and that is accepted protocol for California, and you can't, you're not going to get in trouble for that later, and it works really, really well for investors. So
So are you guys, Brian, are you guys working with investors all across the country, or primarily in Texas, or what's your footprint for investors that you're working with, Brian?
We work across the country, and every state we can handle. I'm actually based in Southern California, even though the company is incorporated in Texas. So, my own stuff is I follow what we just talked about. So being a Californian is definitely has a lot of hoops that go through, but we can handle all of those. So whatever state you're in, we can handle. And we can suggest the right things for you as well. So we have legal folks in every state that can help you to make sure that we're following the rules of your state or even your county, depending upon where you're at, and make sure that you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense there. Now, Jennifer, if somebody's looking at putting an estate plan together, a will, and look at some stuff there, I know it's going to vary on a person by person basis, but what somebody's kind of a cost basis for something like that, for somebody to come in and sit down and start to put together a will and an estate plan together?
Well, if they want, we only do one type of estate plan. So we're not just going to do a will just because we don't think it's just as effective. And that's not really our clients. Our clients have property. They're either real estate investors or they're entrepreneurs. So they're not like, someone right out of college who has no assets or anything like that. So you're looking at anywhere from $1,500 up to maybe $2,500, which is not a lot for that, considering that you're getting all your directives, your will, you're getting a pour over will, and you're getting everything tied in and your living trust and everything like that. So,
yeah, it's important because the directive is half the battle right there, especially if you got family members and things like that, being able to direct and say, okay, this is what happens. This is the money that goes towards paying the mortgage even after I leave. Because we see a lot of that in the note side of space. We're buying a note where the borrower is deceased, and it's not funny, but the children or the people that they're not paying the mortgage. I'm like, listen, no offense, just because mom or pa died doesn't mean that mortgage does not need to be paid. You've got to still pay it. And so setting up those things in a will can help you, actually, keep it out of probate, which we all know that's a longer process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probate can be a nightmare, and anything can happen in probate. It really depends on who you even get. We've seen it, and we haven't seen this, but we've heard of it with numerous people on our own podcast or just listening to people that have went into probate, and they had things spelled out in a will, but it wasn't right or wasn't written correctly, and all of a sudden some 18-year-old gets the bulk of an estate and the bulk of all the bills because they're the only one, and you have this kid who doesn't know what they're doing, and then they just go nuts, and now they're ended up with debt because they went nuts. I mean, it can just go so horribly wrong in probate because you want to think that they're going to care and whatever, but they don't care. They just want to get see how much money they can get and get through it and take what they can, and make sure everything's settled. And if you get someone who's just a little bit sketchy or, the state, or whatever, you just don't know what's going to happen with that. You want to have these documents set so that they have to be followed, so that there's very little wiggle room, so that anyone who's, in the future has, knows what to do with all of that. The last thing you want to do is saddle your kids with bills or a lot of things that maybe you don't want them to know. And, there can be a lot of stuff you can avoid, even personal like issues and things like that, keep your legacy the way you want your legacy to be. The last thing you want to do is have a bunch of skeletons come out of the closet when everybody's dealing with grief and other things like that. It's just.
Yeah. Just to add quickly onto that, I mean, we've seen throughout history, even the billionaires that came out of like the Industrial Revolution, you've seen all of them have lost their wealth, except for the Rockefellers. They're the only family that's actually kept their wealth through generations. They said that, I think statistically, it takes about 3 generations to take all of someone that is accumulated a large amount of wealth to basically be gone. And so we've seen that. And so, if you really want to protect yourselves, and this is the way to do it, is having an estate plan so that you can have that generational wealth, because even the richest families that we've had in America have all lost it except for one.
And it's rumored that he said on his deathbed, "Oh, nothing, control everything."
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't think that, they should also involve their kids in the estate plan, like involve your kids with it, because it helps them think about their own legacy and what they're going to do. I mean, it's a great teaching and learning tool as well. The last thing you want is for kids to think, to be blowing off college, blowing off high school, thinking, well, my mom and dad are made, and, something, and that happens, only to find out, oh, wow, I don't have the pot to be in because they spent it all or whatever. You want to think about these things now. It can really it's just your mindset on it can really make the big difference on how well you live the rest of your life. And how you think as well, setting up things correctly. It's amazing how many people we talk to and we go through the process of stuff. And, we're not financial advisors, but we can also say, hey, have you thought about this? We had a guest on our show. Hey, talk to this guy. Have you thought about this with what you have? Maybe you should talk to them. And it changes their whole outlook on anything, and they go, wow, I never knew about that. Like, not wraparound, what's it called? Wraparound mortgages? No. What's the mortgage at 65 and older? It's escaping me.
It's a reverse mortgage.
Reverse mortgage. I always heard those were the worst things in the world until we got a certified senior advisor on our show by the name of Debbie Boyd. And she talked about those and how they can really change the lives of, if you've got mom and the only thing she's got is this house and she can't take care of it anymore and it's starting to go down, how structuring that correctly and using that as an investment property, you could take mom out of it, get the money, fix that house up, make it a rental. Now there's cash flow in, and mom's in a senior living place that she didn't think that she would afford, and her whole life has changed overnight and her health improves. I mean, that one thing like that, I had no idea about. I'd heard only bad things on the news, and she said, oh, that's because people didn't pay their taxes. They just thought they didn't pay their taxes. They didn't pay their fees, and they didn't understand because it was not correctly explained to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into the mortgage.
Yes, there is. And you need to
of basically turning a property. You've got a lot of equity. It's not a credit-based loan.
Right.
I believe both parties or borrowers had to be at least 65 or older.
Yep.
It basically turns the property into an annuity if there's enough equity there that can then pay the owner of the property, in this case, an elderly person, either a payment each month or remove the monthly payment going out. I mean, we've seen that and help in my previous days as a mortgage banker and mortgage broker, getting people that were facing losing their home and being able to save their home and stay in a house and not to make payments for 20 years, or we're able to pull some cash out of it to spend, as a stipend to help them live in today's expensive cycle. Let's face it, it's getting expensive out there to live as you get older. Healthcare,
yes, it is.
Housing costs. Yeah.
So things like that, when you go through an estate plan, you can get, list some ideas to go. It's just, once you get it done, it's amazing what it opens up for you, and opens up for plans for the kids, different ways and things to structure things and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Cool. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you guys to schedule a phone call with you or jump on a website? What's the best way for them to reach out to get more information on the solutions and services that you're providing?
Awesome. So yeah, you can reach us at leafylegalservices.com or leafyassets.com. Both go to the same website, and you just contact us and you can schedule a free 15-minute discovery call with us. And we also have a free ebook on there as well for asset protection. And so, we welcome to have, speak to anybody that is interested or curious about, how to, protect their assets, estate planning, and, any other those kind of questions. We'll be happy to help you guys. And, really, we're here to help. And that's really what we want to do. And that's really our message that we want to bring to this area.
Sounds great, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking a time slot out of your busy day. I know you guys are busy on the phones and working with a lot of clients, not only in Texas, but across the country to help them with their services and solutions out there for their legal side. So thanks so much, guys, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. And I hope you have a happy holidays.
You too. Y'all take care. Have a great time. Guys and gals, take the opportunity. Check them out at leafyassets.com or Leafy Legal services.com as well. Their forums is an opportunity for them to sit down with you, spend 15 minutes on the phone. Trust me, guys. I know we all get busy, but we've all got 15 minutes to schedule a phone call to see if you're in the right spot, you get the right structure. And that way, knowing is knowledge, because we all know if you plan to fail, you are, if you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail. I'll run there for you, everybody. Go out, make something happen, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top.
Awesome. Bye. Thanks, everybody.